For decades, the popular concept of manifestation has been dominated by the idea that human thoughts emit frequencies that directly command the universe. To understand how intention actually influences reality, we have to break apart those mystical ideas and look at the strict biological mechanisms underneath. Recent work by me in behavioral genetics provides exactly that lens. Dr. Sudheendra S G's comprehensive research paper strips away the pseudoscience and proposes a stringent new definition: directed consciousness engineering. Intention does not transform into reality through supernatural causation. It operates through a highly specific, highly observable cascade involving cognitive neuroscience, social psychology, and epigenomics. If you want to successfully regulate your behavior to achieve specific outcomes, you have to abandon magical thinking. You have to understand the literal physical friction inherent in human intention. We can map this process using behavioral manifestation framework. This three-tier diagram shows the architecture of reality engineering, moving from inherited traits to social dynamics. The base layer consists of microscopic genetic predispositions. This is the immutable code you are born with. The middle layer encompasses individual neuroplasticity and the filtering systems in your brainstem that process environmental data. The top layer addresses macrosocial influence and interconnected neurology, how your internal state interacts with the nervous systems of the people around you. These three layers illustrate exactly how microscopic biological elements scale up to alter the objective external environment you inhabit. The capacity to sustain goal-directed behavior is not distributed equally. Psychological traits vital for sustaining an intention, like optimism and self-efficacy, are up to 50% heritable. This establishes a baseline cognitive load for every individual. This chart compares amygdala reactivity based on variations in the 5-HTT LPR gene. Individuals carrying the SHORTS allele exhibit a sharp sustained spike in threat detection. Individuals carrying the SHORTS allele exhibit a sharp sustained spike in threat detection, giving them a higher baseline of emotional resilience. Carrying the S allele does not prevent a person from positively reframing their circumstances. As this shift in the chart shows, it simply dictates a much higher energy requirement. The neurological friction is greater, demanding more cognitive effort to override an inherited negativity bias. So, we see a similar baseline effect in executive function, driven by the CUM gene, which regulates how quickly dopamine degrades in the prefrontal cortex. Carriers of the MET allele naturally sustain higher dopamine levels, allowing them to easily hold on to long-term goal representations. Val carriers experience faster dopamine breakdown, meaning they require explicit external scaffolding like strict schedules and accountability systems to maintain that same focus. Attempting to engineer your reality is not a level playing field. It requires customized behavioral protocols based on your unique neurogenetic starting point. Once we understand the genetic baseline, we move up to level 2 and look at the reticular activating system, a dense network at the brainstem. The human brain receives an estimated 11 million bits of environmental sensory data every second. Conscious awareness accommodates only about 50 bits. The RAS is the mechanism executing that radical compression. Setting an intention is not a broadcast to the cosmos. It is programming the RAS with explicit discrimination criteria to filter that incoming noise. Vague intentions fail to provide the RAS with a target. Precise behavioral goals, like committing to submit 3 grant applications in 6 months, generate a clear attentional filter. That filter elevates highly relevant, previously hidden environmental opportunities into your conscious awareness. When practitioners report the sudden appearance of serendipitous signs after committing to an outcome, they're describing their own biology. That is the RAS executing highly primed selective attention. Popular manifestation often relies on outcome-only visualization, but fMRI data shows that vividly imagining only the end state of a goal triggers a premature reward signal in dopaminergic circuits. This paradoxically kills the motivation to take the effortful action required to achieve it. The biologically superior alternative is friction visualization. This involves the deliberate cognitive rehearsal of the obstacles, the friction, and the recovery from setbacks. This schematic of a synapse illustrates the trigger for permanent structural brain changes. Intense cognitive rehearsal generates high-frequency action potentials, driving calcium ions flowing through NMDA receptors and triggering a chemical cascade deep into the cell. This calcium surge activates a specific pathway that ends inside the neuron's nucleus, binding directly to the DNA to initiate the transcription of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Once synthesized, BDNF promotes synaptogenesis, the actual sprouting of new dendritic spines. This structurally reinforces the specific neural pathways engaged during your practice. Through sustained effortful intention and BDNF transcription, you alter your physical brain architecture. What initially required immense cognitive effort becomes an energy-efficient default mode. At level 3, we have to ask how this structurally altered internal neurology affects objective external reality and the people within it. In behavioral science, the self-fulfilling prophecy is an empirically robust mechanism, first systematically documented in Robert Rosenthal's landmark Pygmalion effect study on expectancy. Rosenthal's four-factor theory identifies that when a practitioner holds a strong internal belief about a group's capability, they automatically adjust four nonverbal channels: the socio-emotional climate, the complexity of input, the opportunity for output, and the depth of feedback. The neurobiological engine behind these nonverbal cues is the mirror neuron system, located in the premotor cortex. When a practitioner regulates their own autonomic nervous system through respiratory slowing and postural relaxation, they transmit physiological co-regulation signals to the people they interact with. This nonverbal co-regulation directly downregulates the amygdala threat response in those interacting subjects. With the threat response quieted, their prefrontal cortex is unlocked, allowing for higher cognitive performance and complex problem solving. Social manifestation operates entirely without vibrational auras. It is the highly contagious biological synchronization of nervous systems engineered by deeply held internal belief states. Looking back at this complete three-tiered pyramid, we can trace the unbroken temporal life cycle of a single intention. The process begins by acknowledging and managing the baseline friction dictated by our specific genetic polymorphisms. Conscious effort then programs the selective filter of the reticular activating system and physically rewires neural circuitry via the BDNF pathway. Finally, that internal rewiring projects outward, altering environmental probabilities through mirror neurons and autonomic co-regulation. The claim that the human mind exercises cosmic command over reality is a myth that distracts from the actual mechanics of achievement. Manifestation, when properly understood, is the highest form of self-regulation. It is a rigorous, observable, and multidisciplinary art of directed consciousness engineering.